Manda. Thank you very much, our program director, Baham Quina, and the leadership of the EFF present here today, and all those who took their time to come and engage with us today. I've been asked to come and speak to you by the leadership of the economic freedom fighters. And they said we are going to spend some time with you. But I've since been advised that I will have to speak this side and go and speak on the other side. And then 6 o'clock I'm at the Nelson Mandela University today. So we're trying to speak to as many people as possible. But I will try and also do justice to the issues we felt we needed to deal with here today. We are called the economic freedom fighters because we believe that we have attained our political freedom in 1994. And therefore, political freedom alone is not enough and represent an incomplete freedom. And therefore, it becomes meaningless for as long as there is no attainment of the economic freedom. And the economic freedom is nothing else but the liberation of the mind. But that liberation of the mind will never happen for as long as the people do not own the means of production. And therefore, the ownership of the means of production is at the center of the struggle for economic freedom in our lifetime. In any way, our struggle, when it was conceptualized by generations before us, 1912 and even before, the wars of dispossession were centered at the ownership of the means of production. So the biggest crime committed by the colonizers was the stealing of the land, which is at the center of the ownership of the means of production. Now, when the people fought the wars of dispossession, they were not fighting to vote. They were not fighting to obtain political power. They fought as small tribal groups because they wanted to own. They wanted to reclaim what belongs to them. They resisted the stealing of the land by colonizers. And when they got defeated, they then said we need to establish a one progressive body, umbrella body, which will unite all of us. Maybe we will win, because if we fight as small tribal groups, we get defeated. It is important that we unite and then fight as a progressive people. That's what led to the formation of the ANC in 1912. It was not about being voted into power. It was about the ownership of the means of production. So the ANC was formed to reclaim the land and the wealth of the country. And that wealth at that time was represented by cattle which were forcefully taken from our people. And later on, the discovery of gold and diamond, which made an increase, which led to an increase of settlers into our country. So, all this necessitated the struggle by black people, which was about and against colonialism. So, because we agree that our struggle is a struggle to ensure that we own the means of production, we first have to liberate the mind. So, the mind will never be liberated for as long as you do not own the means of production. Because those who own the means of production, they are the ones who own how ideas must spread in the country. They own television, they own newspapers, they own radio. So everything else that people must know, it is determined by the owners of the means of production. For those of you who do not own the means of production, even if you may have good ideas, you will never succeed because you do not own the means of production. So, publishing companies, production companies are owned by the owners of the means of production. So, they even go beyond. They own the education system.
Yeah.
So what you learn should be learned by you. And anything else they don't want you to learn will never be taught at the university. That's why they zombified the education system of black people. They are the so-called family education. Why? Because they thought our collective thinking is the same. So we deserve the same type of education system which will perpetuate black inferiority. And that's why most of you in schools, including here at the university, they teach you how to conduct yourself during interview. I just want to give you an example of that. Why? Because the type of education system is designed in such a way that it must produce employees other than employers. Because the employers I asked before I came here that you must get the proper sound, because I know university sounds are messed up. I told you that production companies are owned. So they decide which ideas want to have. They teach you how to conduct yourself in an interview. Why? Because these universities and the schools, their education system is designed in a manner that it will produce those who are going to sell their labor to survive. And the owners, the buyers of labor remains the few white males. Majority of them are found in Stellenbosch. So that's why the EFF emphasizes that at the center of the struggle for economic freedom is quality education. It is quality education because this education will help liberate the mind. And once the mind is liberated, then the mind will demand to own the means of production. An oppressed mind, an illiterate mind, an uneducated mind will never demand to own the means of production because that mind is compatible with the status quo. liberated an institution like this one with a problematic name. It has to be liberated because they are at the center of causing problems for our people. I mean, it was this university which gave Veljul an honorary doctorate in 1954. Why did they do that? H. Veljul, Minister of Education then, who represented the apartheid system, a man who was at the center of the creation of problematic education system for black people, the Bantu education, was honored here. Because this university agrees with reproduction of ideas which will lead to segregation of our people. This university agrees with the time that such people are correct people because they represent white supremacy. So today they have to be ashamed that they have given, honorary doctorates to medals to people who were at the center of persecution of those who demanded their freedom. It was this university which hosted the first conference of NUSAS, where instructions were clear to NUSAS delegates that black students will not enjoy the same privileges with white students during their stay in this institution. Therefore, they must never think that students are going to be housed here. They must never think that they are going to socialize in the areas which are exclusively for white. If people and them said to the delegates of NUSAS, especially white fellow students, you have to defy these orders of the university. You have to tell the university that all of us are going to enjoy the same privileges available to delegates to this conference. But the white students could not agree. They actually agreed with the management that the black students should be segregated against, because it was believed even by fellow students then that it is correct to segregate black students. It was in the same institution that SASO actually was born. Because if people then realize we need to form our own organization, if we think we're together with white students in the same organization, fighting for the same interest, yet on the other hand, they agree with policies of isolation, it can't be correct. So in as much as this university has produced racists of note and supported laws that separated our people, it was through such experiences that progressive ideas which were represented by Steve Biko were equally born here. Because it was Steve Biko who said, now it is the time for the black people to fight for their dignity. It is for the black people to fight so that they can be respected and be treated as equal citizens in this country. So it's important to know that history, because you ought to know where you come from in order to determine the direction you need to take. So in as much as we know them to be advocating for white supremacy, but we also have to know that black consciousness was born here. We ought to know that, and it's important that blackness should never be understood to be representing bad whiteness. Blackness should never be seen to be representing inferiority, illiteracy, and selling out your soul because you think that you are inherently incompetent. If we have progressive white students now, they must be the ones who are going to stand in the struggle, especially the struggle to rename this university. Why? Because you cannot celebrate a name of a person who is responsible for the isolation, including the stealing of the land of black people. You cannot celebrate a person who represents white supremacy, because white supremacy is a serious phenomenon which ought to be defeated, and not only by blacks but by whites themselves, who have now come to accept that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, but it will never belong to all of us if the other party thinks that it is superior. You ought to start to pray. You are not superior. You are part of the people of South Africa. You want a peaceful environment. You want a peaceful country where resources of the country are shared equally. You ought to be the forefront. Why do you name a university after individuals? You name university after individuals. You create statues of individuals because you think that they represent certain values which must be emulated by generations to come. To come to emulate a person who stands for white supremacy, a person who represents isolation of black people, a person who has stolen the land from black people. Are you saying to generations to come, stealing from others is a good thing, because if you leave stealing, you will be idolized by generations to come? And the name of this university tries to suggest that all those who presided over the murderous regime, who is speaking about the stealing of the land, we are just being moderate because we are trying to accommodate all South Africans here. But the reality is that these people did not just steal the land. They committed genocide in the process of stealing of the land. They killed black people who refused to surrender the land. So it's important that all those who benefited from such a system should begin to be in the forefront of denouncing that system and saying to us, we are not like those who came before us. We are the Mandela Freedom Generation. We want to live with everybody because we believe that all humans are equal. So we don't need those who think that when we say we are demanding our land, we are actually saying whites must go. Anyone who thinks like that, anyone who thinks like that, you don't have a home in South Africa. If you think we say whites must go, then you're free to leave. We cannot say that there must be equal ownership of the land, and you see that as removing white people. We lived here for more than 3 years without our property. But we never left. We remained here because we knew one day a new generation would be born. And it is that generation which will restore the dignity of black people. When we demand the land, we are not demanding just the land. We are demanding our dignity back. There is no dignity without ownership of property. That's why those who come from the townships will tell you that a black person who owns even a bad-shaped shed, not in a good condition, that person all the time doesn't forget to tell the neighbors and whoever gets to listen that this is my home. It is that pride that comes with ownership. We did not have pride because we do not have our dignity. We are inferior because we do not have property. We cannot think because we have no property. Ownership helps us to think. You have robbed us everything. Our land, because it is that land which will help us to liberate ourselves. We are asking of the land peacefully. You have taken the land violently. We are asking of thee peacefully. Peace for us. I cannot guarantee that it will stay like that for a long time. The anger of our people is going. Our people are becoming impatient. You are happy because they march and demand that from government. The day they get educated and know who is the real enemy, that is the day you are going to be dead. Because you own the media, because you own ideas, you are the one who tells people to turn against the government and foreigners and not concentrate on the real enemy. The enemy one day will be known to our people. And the day they appreciate who is the enemy, you will be in serious danger. So before they come to you, surrender the land. Surrender the land before the land comes with everything. When we say we're demanding our minerals, the minerals come with the land. When we say we demand the wealth of the country, that wealth comes with the land. We demand the land because we want to settle our people. The reason why our people are homeless is because in their majority they cannot afford to buy the expensive land. I mean, we are leading the struggle to invade the land. In most areas where we have invaded the land successfully, people don't ask for RTP houses. They start building themselves spacious and proper houses. Because RTP houses are not a solution. They want the land, but they do not have money to buy the land. It's expensive. So we want the land to settle it. We want the land to build clinics for our people, to build schools for our people, to build the proper roads for our people. We want the land to produce food because it is the ownership of the land which will guarantee us of food security. Today we speak, South Africa only receives or produces 40% of food here. The 60% is from outside. Because people do not own their own land. If people own their own land and they are given the necessary tools to work their land and support to work their land, will be guaranteed of food security. People are going to bed without a meal because they cannot produce, even if it's not to sell, but for survival. They want the land for survival.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop asking us, what are you going to do with the land? You don't know the agriculture. You have no capacity. It's none of your business. You steal my car. You steal my car. And I come across that car. I say to you, this is my car. And then you start saying to me, no, you are going to make a speed in Soweto with this car because you don't know how to use it. So I will keep it. And then I must negotiate with the criminal that stole my car. Bring my car. And what I do with my car is my business. If I take out the wheels and put this car on top of the brakes, it's okay, it's my car. If we don't use this land, it's okay, it's our land. We will have ourselves to blame and not anyone else. But the reality is that we've got capacity. Even this 40% we're talking about, you are just owners. We are doing the actual work of producing the food which is spread all over this country. There is no white labor in the farm. It's black workers who are producing millionly. So if you say we don't know how to use the land for, what do you mean? You are using the land now. The problem is that it's under you. We want to use it. It must be under us. It's our land. And some of this land, by the way, which they claim is theirs, they don't even have papers for it. Around 1990, when it was inevitable that democracy is coming, most of them started sharing the state properties. Not only the land, they stole government houses, they stole government buildings, they even stole money, transferred it into other countries. So, this thing of saying we must nationalize the land and the state must be a custodian of the land, and all those who are using or who want to use the land must go to the state to reapply, it's going to expose a lot of criminals. Because before you reapply, you have to produce proof that I used to own this land before you nationalized it. I was using it for 1, 2, 3 years. My papers. They do not have papers, many of them. When government did a road from Rustenburg to Mafike, they took some pieces of land from other farmers as they were going along. And then they called upon those farmers to come and hand over papers so that they can be compensated for their land. Majority of them didn't show up. Because they knew that they were going to be exposed. They would have to produce papers in order to be compensated. They stole a lot of land, not only during those old days, just recently. So, we need to support that the state must be a custodian of land ownership, so that we expose the thieves which recently just stole our land, amongst others. When we say foreigners must not own the land, they make noise about it. But no foreigner owns the land in Britain. They want to project themselves as the most democratic and liberal. But they do not agree with their own land. But when they come here, you must let off your land to the highest bidder. The policy that says willing buyer, willing seller is the most dangerous policy, because it means South Africa is available to the highest bidder. One day they will come, and some of them is their wish. They can bring a dollar billionaire, a pound billionaire, who will come and buy the whole of Grahamstown and then fence it, because it's a private land, and say everyone who enters my gate there, you must show cause. What are you doing here? For one, that law will only be introduced for black people. Before you know it, they will introduce dumb buses in the name of private owned land. And also, the sovereignty of the country. You cannot have the land of your country owned by private individuals. It threatens the independence, the sovereignty of this country. It's important, if you are patriotic, if you love your country, to say the custodian of the land must be the state, and every individual who wants to use the land must apply to the state and show cause. What do you want to use this land for? I want to use it for residential purpose. You must be given a permission to use it for that. I want to use it for agricultural purpose. Get a permission to use it for that. That's how even the Chinese have done it. They own their own land. But when they come to South Africa, foreigners must be allowed to own the land here. We're talking here of minerals that are stolen. Many of you say to us, hey, nationalization has not worked anywhere. It's going to cripple the economy and all manner of things. Our economy is losing a lot of billions through exporting of raw materials to outside South Africa. But not only that, that's what we used to say when we were young in the youth league. We thought we were a boy. They are taking this thing wrong as they are into other countries and not in South Africa. We have recently discovered that they are also stealing the money through transfer pricing. They shift the profit to tax havens. What they do is that they establish another company in a country where taxes are not paid, and then they sell this material to themselves and they devalue it when they sell it to the outside country. So a material where 50 rand is sold at 10 rand, and then they pay a tax on 10 rand, and then they don't pay a tax on 40, because that thing was bought from me for 10 rand. But they sold to themselves at 10 rand to an outside established company in tax haven. So South Africa loses taxes on that 40 rand. Imagine if we made a tax for the fiscals of 2 rand from that 10 rand. If it was sold at a real value of 50 rand, would have made 10 rand. But we make it 2 rand now. Since 1994, there was no law in South Africa that prevented transfer pricing. Only now with the arrival of EFF in Parliament, we said, but this corporate crime must be stopped. They couldn't stop it because the black leadership is in cahoots with white elite. That was the agreement reached during negotiation. That's why you have Cyril Ramaphosa and them. No offense, I'm no. There is nothing smart about Cyril Ramaphosa. There is nothing wow about Cyril Ramaphosa. This literally is gentleman, you know. Just makes videos like that. Without any explanation. If you were to ask Cyril, what are you producing? He doesn't produce anything. He's smart. There's nothing smart about it. The only thing that they buy from him is his blackness. He's selling to them his blackness. To say, I am black, therefore I can be DEE, and therefore I can become economic security guard. When your investments are under threat, I will call the state to come and protect your investment. That's what he did in Marikana. That is the role of black politicians in business. When the wealth of white people is threatened, they call the state to come and protect the interest of white capital. So you are an economic security guard. You are not an entrepreneur. So that's why we say there's nothing smart about it. So, I mean, if DJs boo for years, if DJs boo for years, produce more fire. Produce more fire. And DJ's who is more smarter than Cyril Ramaphosa. Because he has produced something. And that thing is on the shelf. And maybe like Coca-Cola will one day become a serious fire. Not what it is. That's what we must celebrate. Producing of ideas, not the parasites, not sell out, who go to celebrate innovation.